and you can go ahead and decide for yourself and see what.
Previously on Gaming Objections.
Or we can do DLC this episode. Just saying. Because I gave
The egotistical and arrogant badass Nubosaurus Rex established his superiority by continuously dishing out direct verbal rapage at the MFers responsible for helping create today's senseless DLC
and just pay
practices.
for it because you're already happy with that. And if you don't want to pay for DLC, if you're not happy with it, then stop spending your money, because that's the only thing you can do as a consumer is either spend your money or to not spend your money. So just for one
But the
year,
message clearly sent to all the DLC chicken nuggets around the world. Only one thing remains. Just what does Daniel think of all this DLC propaganda bullshit?
Okay, now that my headache is gone from that out-of-the-blue pistol whip I received like a few days ago, I feel like I need to address this whole DLC fiasco that's going on with everybody on the internet and in real life, and I've just seen it all, and I have a lot to get off my chest right now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to address it in two personas. I'm going to do it in a character I call the negative, and the other one is myself, what I actually think about, honestly think about all this whole DLC, business practices. And I'm going to start off with the negative right now, because I feel that should be addressed first. And now, as far as today is I'm concerned, March 6th, 2012, it is the release date of Mass Effect 3 and Street Fighter Cross Tekken. It was reported on the news of the gaming news, especially Capcom's blog, and as well as other sources, that the 12 originally planned DLC characters are revealed to kind of be locked on the disc.
Are you ready to die painfully?
Okay, let's go! I must destroy all targets.
Let the madness begin! Fight! Hang on!
That's it! Shuriken! 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 Shuriken!
Hang on!
I won't lose! Shuriken! I won't lose! Shuriken!
Out of my face!
I won't lose! Shuriken! That's it! Shuriken! I won't lose! Shuriken! Shuriken! Shuriken!
You cross mad?
What people are now saying that they feel like they're getting ripped off. But are they really? Really? I mean, first of all, can you actually physically see them in their real life state? I'm talking about not from a hacker's point of view. I'm talking about what their actual progress is at their developer's office. Can you? No? Okay. Now shut up and listen, because what they fail to realize is DLC is usually planned as a separate budget from the actual gaming's, budget to actually create the finished product CLD game. And I'll get to then about finished product in a little bit. But for now, I need to get back to the DLC, because what those people fail to realize is DLC exists because it's extra content that's created that's separately from the main game itself. Additional content. And yet people just whine and just say oh, it should be finished on the, and put on the game to begin with. Why am I paying for $60?
If you want to get technical, let's. If any of you gamers read the fine print, as in the user license agreement, and I assume that most of you don't based on your complaints, you would know that whenever you buy a game, that what you are actually paying for is the disc that holds the content. not the content on the disc.
So that the whole argument of saying it should be on it, you make it sound like it's easy to do. Like, what do you know about game development? I don't claim to be in the industry, but at least I plan to be a realist about it. But and another thing is, that I have to get back is the complete product thing. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as any realist is concerned, what people call a complete product is a matter of preference. What you may consider incomplete, others may see as this is good enough. Like what's this DLC? Oh, it's stuff that can be added onto my game. Yeah, add-ons like extra stuff like this could happen afterwards, or this could be put on to enhance the game, give it extra stuff. That's what actually it should be. It should be seen as that way. No way should it be seen as stuff being ripped off.
Listen. Do what I say. Refuse, try and run, disobey me. That collar on your neck will go off and take your head with it. Gather the three as I've instructed. Use your team as I use you. One of you dies, you all die. Break into the Sierra Madre's vault. Batman! What the hell?
Sorry to disappoint you, boys. It's just little old me.
This will be easy. This is gonna hurt, freak! You're gonna die tonight.
As you can see, incomplete, complete is still a matter of preference. I'll go use an analogy for those who still don't get it. Hamburgers, like food or whatever. Everybody has a different view of a complete burger. So those like hardly any toppings on it, and they consider, oh, it's complete. And others may say, well, I want like cheese on my burger for a more complete burger. But you know what? They're gonna charge me extra for that. But you know what? I can understand that because that's an extra topping, that's an extra expense, especially if that type of resource is expensive to obtain. They have to do that to make up, a profitable revenue. It doesn't always have to do with greed. It's just standard business practices to see a surplus in, for their business. If there was if they were really hurting, they'll let us know. They'll let us know. If they're not letting us know, then it's a PR issue, and us as consumers aren't exactly privileged for that, and that's something we have to live with. Especially you guys who feel that it should be something that we do because we pay it. Well, think of your work, for example. Are there some things at your work that only you guys in the inside info are allowed to know and the public's not to know? Same thing. Don't act like you are owed anything. First of all, that's another thing I learned a long time ago is nobody owes you anything. That's just how life is. Now, that was the negative. I'll have to calm down now because I now have to come back to actual me, Daniel. Here's what I see as this whole DLC, fiasco that everything is going on. I think it's gotten out of hand. I remember during the Xbox days, like during the early 2000s or late 90s, around that time, that when DLC was started to become a norm and a mainstream with the Xbox and PS2 didn't have really a whole lot. at least that I know of. I could be wrong. If so, let me know. And another thing I would like to, I feel like I really should bring up is the DLC at the time was indeed seen as additional content, because when you bought games back then, it was and new content was eventually made available to be downloaded for your content. We did indeed see that as additional content, probably because it came out way later after the game. And one thing that it's sad to report, but with the events, with new progress of technologies, they they now have gone a little overboard with that now, and that's what's pissing people off, especially like right after the game is released. I can understand how people would be pissed off. I am pissed off at some of it as well. Last night I went to the Mass Effect 3 midnight release at GameStop, and when I was paying off my my price for the game, they were asking like, would you like to get this day one DLC that for it? It's an extra like $9.99. It's like called From Ashes. But because me personally, I'm very selective with my DLC. I only really choose what's really worth it. There's a lot of DLC that I just ignore and I decide I can live without. Therefore, I don't really see it as an incomplete product most of the time. Like I said, I say most of the time because it really depends on the game and it depends on the DLC. This, for example, I really see that like it should be a little worth it, especially now since it is something that I could enjoy a little bit. So I went ahead and got it because I could afford it at the time, and so. Yeah, I have yet to actually see it because I just started my new game, and it's kind of like a bit sad for me to say this because I tried to import my Mass Effect character from the previous game into Mass Effect 3, and I was able to import my decisions and as long from my save file and in the character that I had previously saved, and they didn't allow me to. It said it couldn't. Well, I don't know if it was allowed. More like incapable. I couldn't import the appearance, like the facial appearance of my Mass Effect character into Mass Effect 3.
As you can see, Mass Effect 3 will not recognize my custom facial code of Commander Shepard from Mass Effect 2 or Mass Effect 1. Although I have to say that there are some lucky ones out there that actually have success in importing it, or at least partially, from their Mass Effect 1 character that they've made.
And I was speaking with my friend at the time, who also was with me, who went and got the game as well at the midnight release. And he said he couldn't even find his profile at all to even import. And I'm like, well, let me see if I can do it. I was speaking to him through private chat on Xbox Live, and sure enough, like I was able to find mine and I was able to import my decisions that showed the list of the decisions I made in the past Mass Effect games. And yeah, I was able to carry that over at least, but it wouldn't get, it said it was unable to find the facial code for my my customized character from my past Mass Effect games. And I felt like this is a joke, right? It has to be. But I almost was gonna hold off on starting a new game of Mass Effect until they released a patch for it. I got online to see if this wasn't just the two of us, and sure enough, this is mainstream.
Due to the overwhelming feedback about the facial importing issue, BioWare has responded and said they would work on a patch for it. So far there is no date released for it yet, but at least it's coming, and I'll provide the link to this page for you all.
They are aware of the problem. They said, but you'll just have no choice right now but to just try to redo your face again. But at least we don't have to worry about missing out on carrying over the decisions. They at least got that right with mostly. At least with me. if there's gamers out there who feel like they're not even given the option to import anything, even though they clearly have, like for Mass Effect 2 or 1, to carry over the information, then yes, I feel that you should really address that as well. Hopefully there'll be a patch for that as well, along with the facial importation issue. Now, so what I eventually did was I tried to recreate the face, and it's not spot on. I'm not really too, I'm not really too satisfied with it, but I think it's close enough. What I had to do was I had to take a picture. I had to load up my Mass Effect 2 game again and take a picture of my customized character's face, look at it, while editing my, the new face I have of my imported character on Mass Effect 3. That was at least something I could do for the time being. But if they do release a patch where that issue is fixed, then I'll frickin' start over. I have no problem with it. I just want to at least enjoy what the game has, to offer right now. With the $60 I paid, or $70 if you want to count the DLC, which I think was, almost, I have to say it was almost unacceptable. That's something that I feel like really should have been in. But in today's day and age, DLC is here to stay, whether we like it or not, or how much we protest. Because considering the scale of how many gamers are out there and how many buy DLC. The most we protest could do is probably just make a dent in our message to the developers that DLC shouldn't get out of hand. I actually think it's going to get worse from now on, unless some miracle happens where there's enough protest, like Occupation Wall Street type of size of protest, where we let the developers know that we will not stand for this. Or you should, if you must have DLC, at least make it more affordable. And now that's my Mass Effect coverage right there. And I need to get into Street Fighter Cross Tekken right now. Recently there were the 12 DLC characters that were that were released. That were going to be released as DLC. They were recently revealed to be locked on the disc. Now, a lot of people who planned on getting it are now backing down, canceling their orders, and going to buy other games, such as Ninja Gaiden, 3, or maybe Mass Effect 3, like the one I got. I didn't get Street Fighter Cross Tekken. And another thing is, they feel like it's. Like what I mentioned earlier, they feel like it's something that they're holding for ransom and stuff like that. First of all, using those type of words is just a frustration speaking. And it's not exactly truth. I have the mentality. This is me, Daniel, not the negative. What I feel like there is a reason for everything, and I think what also helps me, enforce that belief is my college major. I'm a communications and business major, so I understand from a business standpoint as well as a fan's perspective, and that they're not actually out to get you or make things rip you off or or they're doing things just to piss you off. They're a business and they're doing what they can to make their money, and if you don't know, if you guys understand, for instance, Capcom. I say this because I study a lot of what's going on because I want to know exactly what's going on with them. I can compare to EA or Activision, but Capcom is what I pay attention to because one, I really used to like the company very well. Right now, I'm leaning towards indifference because of everything that's been happening since last summer during the cancellation of those Mega Man games, as well as the refusal to localize Ace Attorney Investigations 2, which was a game that a lot of fans were looking forward to, hundreds of thousands. In case you guys want a little bit of a number of how, the Ace Attorney fan base is small compared to other series, but it's still a fan base regardless that really makes it, worth paying attention to. especially those who like adventure games or good stories. Those games are for you. Anyway, because a lot of people were wanting to know, first of all, after everybody blew a gasket, and they started resorting to questions about why or how come, and the best answers we were able to get so far as of right now, the release day of the game, is the reason they're locked on the disc is because they're partially completed, and they're not ready to play online is their main reason why they're not ready to go. They're still trying to do some tweaking about it. According to the other YouTube videos of their playthrough, they may appear to be finished, but are they really? From the developers, the developers there who work on them in the offices, only they can say 100% for sure if they're finished or not. Unfortunately, we don't have any grounds to say if something's finished or not because we're not working on it. All we can say is it looks like it's finished. That's the most we can say about it. Now, I'll probably show you some game footage in a little bit, but in the meantime, I'm gonna dive into what everyone else and more into why the disc is holding those DLC characters in. Another thing is both for the online costumes as well as online playable issues with those characters being on the disc. For example, if you were to play online, say the DLC characters have already been released, it's already fall 2012, or soon after that, and you choose not to really buy most of the DLC characters for Street Fighter Cross Tekken. You choose to say, nah, I'm not going to spend any more than $60. As tempting as it is, I'm gonna stand my ground. Now, excuse me. They say that the reason why they're on the disc right now is because if you choose not to buy the characters and you go and play online, and you encounter somebody who paid for the DLC characters and is using them online to play against you, guess what? In order for you to play, in order for the game that you have, the disc that you're using, to read that character, it has to have data of that character on your disc in order for it to read it and actually you play against that character that other person has downloaded. If they were not locked on the disc, you would not even encounter those guys online. And what the company's trying to do is they're trying to give everybody the whole shebang, the whole product of being able to, the option, all options available to you, even if you don't have any DLC downloaded or paid for. And that's just the main thing. And I know people can probably say, hey, that if that's the case, then why not just make it? Then I'd rather not play anybody who has it. Well, that's just fun that you might miss out on. And for those who say Capcom doesn't care about you, then why the hell would they even do that? It depends on it really depends on what you see as them caring or not. If they really for people who feel that Mega Man is dead, why would they kill off Mega Man if it was one of their long-standing things? If they franchises, they're still releasing some old games that down on the 3DS, for example, or PSN, Virtual Console, comic books. If a character was dead, we would no longer see him after Mega Man Legends 3 was canceled. That is the true definition of a character being dead. Okay, now, if there's anything that I haven't really covered yet, I'll probably get back to you guys or save it on to the next episode. But for now, I feel like this is enough for just one episode. So far, it's my first really good one, and I would like to leave on a high note right now. I feel like the DLC, just continue to be selective about like I am, because if you can't really truly boycott DLC to try and send a message, because a lot of DLC is indeed tempting and appealing to have, you may choose to boycott it, but chances are you'll like my friend Nubasaurus Rex said previously. You guys those guys really don't have any grounds to stand on if you say you're not going to buy any DLC, and yet you go out and buy something that is appealing and at least cheap. That's still DLC. It all adds up. And I have seen online that people who say that they're going to completely boycott a company, but yet they've only to come back a few months later and say, I have to admit I did buy this from them. Sure, it was only like $10 or $12. But they did that because it was appealing. Now, for those of you who can actually hold your boycotting and stuff, I applaud you. I really do, because you are really standing up for what you believe in, and I feel like that may one day add on to what the protesters are against the DLC are trying to achieve. And me personally, I do hope that the DLC practices will get better. But for the time being, especially with the release of Mass Effect, especially with the release of Mass Effect 3, it's going to get worse. Mass Effect 3 right now, as far as the over $800 worth of DLC, that's the worst I've ever seen. And just that sentence alone, Mass Effect 3 has over $800 worth of DLC. That may sound bad, but if you were to actually look at what the list of DLC is, a lot of it is stuff that you can really live without, or at least from my perspective. But the thing about what I'm saying from my perspective, a majority can probably agree on. You don't need to have costumes. It doesn't affect gameplay. You don't need to have really powerful guns. That may help your gameplay as far as like difficult challenges, or as far as either making the game easier, or just something that you can feel, yeah, I just blew up a whole frickin' room of bad guys with one shot, get raped. And anyway, but then again, that's the price you have to pay for that enjoyment. But then again, you don't have to have it. I think those are incomparable compared to say DLC that's like extra characters, especially if there's not a whole lot of characters. That's more acceptable to me. If there's like a shitload of extra characters to download, then yeah, I'll feel like it's a bit over the top. But Mass Effect 2 only had 2 DLC characters, and they're relatively good. I loved their characters. I loved their voice actresses. I loved their personal side missions that you had to do to make them loyal, and I felt that it actually was worth the money. Do I feel like it should have been on the game to begin with? Yeah, but the thing is, those characters didn't really come out until a little while after the Mass Effect 2 came out. A little while is not a certain date, a certain time frame, that's really definite that you can consider. But I'm just going off of memory right here. So I feel like you just really have to decide which DLC is worth it and not. And those $800 worth of DLC, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of it you can really live without. I can live without the mechanical dog companion. I can live without those guns. I can live without those costumes, alternate costumes for squad, extra hoodie for or attachments, appearance things from Mass Effect, in Mass Effect for Commander Shepard. My friend got the limited edition, and I looked at the back to see what he acquired from buying the limited edition. I looked at them, and the only thing I felt that was really worth it, like as far as in-game content, not like actual physical stuff like the booklet and comic book, those are nice. But the only thing I saw in the limited edition a copy of what's exclusive with that as far as in-game content was just an extra mission.
If you look at the back of the limited edition of Mass Effect 3, you'll notice that out of all the downloadable content that comes with it, the bonus downloadable mission and character that's highlighted below, to me as a Mass Effect 3 fan, is the only DLC in the whole entire list that's actually worth, downloading, since it affects gameplay.
a lot of that DLC, as far as the costume stuff, a lot of that is probably like contributes to the high price of the 870. But what I'll probably do is I'll put in the info bar, or in the next video. I have yet to decide about exactly taking apart the over $100 worth of DLC for Mass Effect 3, and letting you know which, again, what I say is worth it or not, and how much it actually, the DLC for Mass Effect 3 it actually adds up to for as far as content that's actually worth it. That way it won't sound so bad as 800 in DLC. Another thing about DLC is you don't like I said, I probably mentioned this earlier, but you don't have to buy DLC. And you could just be very selective or not at all. But that doesn't mean that the game, the $60 game that you paid for, is not going to be worth your time, or it's not going to be fun at all. I mean, remember, a lot of I mean, months or years of work went into that $60 game, and at least buy the game for that if you don't want the DLC. People will, companies make their money merely off of they make their money more off of their game sales than they do DLC, and if that's debatable, let me know. But last I checked, games cost more than DLC, and a lot more games are bought than DLC across all platforms. That's it for me. I'm gonna let you guys get back to me in the comments, or maybe video responses if you want to. I welcome it. I enable it on my channel, and that's pretty much it. I'll let you guys know when my next video is gonna be coming up. I'll see you guys later.